Today, we're speaking with graduate Sarah Sand, who completed her bachelor's degree in early childhood education. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Absolutely. So, as a lot of you know, we recently reached out to some of our particularly outstanding graduates for our Graduate of the Year contest. And I am honored to announce that you, Sarah, are one of our finalists. Congratulations.
Yay! I'm so excited. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. We were really impressed with your background and your application, and we thought you had a really great story to tell that would resonate with a lot of other students and potential learners.
Thank you. Yeah, I do think that my story will resonate because I know I never saw myself here, but here I am.
That's so great. So, first off, what made you want to pursue your degree online? How did you find Ashworth, and what made you think that Ashworth was the right school for you?
When I found Ashworth, I was living in my sister's garage on our reservation, and I knew that I needed a change. I was working full time already, and I knew that I didn't have the skills that I needed to complete the job as effectively as I would have liked to. I felt sort of like an imposter, like I hadn't earned my job. So I thought, well, it's time to make a change. And I found Ashworth. I figured online school would be better for me just because I do have such a busy life and I have children. And it helped me so much. I mean, I think it was 2 months after I began my courses, my brother passed away due to complications from COVID. And being online with my schooling allowed me to give myself the space and time that I needed to grieve and heal and not miss a beat with my schooling. So I know I could not have come this far without being online.
So online school isn't for everyone. Obviously, it worked really well for you, but it definitely takes a certain amount of discipline and structure. You already talked about how it really did fit into your life, and obviously certain obstacles that you faced, but I guess in an academic or even in a technical sense, were there any struggles you had? Sometimes I know, parents or people who are working full-time jobs or people who are both, they have a hard time finding the right kind of structure for them to be successful because it does take a lot of self-discipline. Did you face any obstacles like that? And if so, how did you maneuver to overcome them?
There were some obstacles, but the format for the classes at Ashworth is very similar each class, so they're predictable. I knew what to expect. I knew how many modules and lessons there would be. I could plan around that. And knowing what to expect made it easier for me. And I know that trying to fit school into an already busy life can be difficult. There were days where I woke up at 3 and 4 in the morning to read or do my paper before the children woke up. And then I would have to clock into my job at 8 a.m.
Wow. That was actually going to be my next question was walk us through a typical day. Because I know you did mention those crazy early morning starts. And I mean, that's hard. Did you find that you needed to sometimes take a step back and make some time for yourself?
Yes.
Or were you able to kind of just push through it?
There were times where I had to step back and take some time for myself. And thankfully, working at your own pace allows for that. A year after my brother passed away, my mother passed away from cancer. And I thought, well, I could take this time to grieve, or I could push through it and work harder because I wanted to make sure that I had my degree by the time her funeral came around. And so that's what I did. I just really buckled down and applied myself. There were things that I had to miss out on. There were sacrifices that I made, personal sacrifices, but they were all worth it. They got me here.
Clearly you had a lot happening at the time that you were undertaking your studies. Did you feel like, at least through the school, that you had resources or support to help you get through those tough times, like especially if you did have to take a break from things, or whether that was just a day of putting things off, a week, a month, whatever you needed to take that time for yourself? Or I know sometimes not sometimes, all of the times when you're going through things like that, you can really get lost in your own head and your feelings, and it's hard to focus and concentrate and absorb, what you're learning or what's going on around you. Did you feel that
Hmm.
the instructors were able to assist you with that?
Yeah, the instructors were absolutely so helpful and kind and caring human beings. And the technical support staff, they have been some of my best friends. They've probably gotten a lot of tickets from me, but they're always very quick to respond and very polite. They've been amazing. They've helped me through any speed bumps. They've explained things that I couldn't or did not understand at the time. It's been amazing. I mean, you guys have made it really easy for us to succeed.
I'm so glad to hear that, especially because I think people sometimes, a lot of the feedback I get, especially when I talk to people and they say, "Oh, what do you do?" And I tell them, I work for an online school, and they'll have comments about, well, people who go to school online, they're kind of on their own. They just sign in, they do their work, and then that's it. Like, what if you need help or questions? But we know that that's the situation, that just because you're going to school online doesn't mean you're going to school by yourself, or that
Right.
there aren't resources there for you. Did you ever use anything like the student community, or
Yes.
did you just stick with like the tutoring center, or
Yep.
academic support itself?
I used the student community. I did get some academic support once or twice when there was an assignment that I was really struggling with. But they, again, made it really easy to understand and they made it super easy to succeed.
Oh, great. What was your experience like with the student community?
So I found that the message boards were really helpful in communicating about some of the classes from people who had taken it previously or people who were currently taking it, what some of their thoughts were on some of the projects that I was struggling with. It was the most helpful thing. Thankfully, everything's right there online.
I love that too, because again, people think like, well, you're not in a class with other people, so how do you, relate maybe to your peers? But we have the community for that very
Yeah.
purpose, whether it is somebody who already went through it and can offer advice, or kind of, other people who are in it at the same time and you can kind of commiserate with.
Yes, it was great.
So you're a mom, which obviously creates a totally different set of challenges from the norm. Good challenges, but challenges. How did you balance your role as a working mom with going back to school?
I found that it was a lot easier to study because the classes were online. I could download my books on my app, load it to my tablet or my phone, and catch up on some of my my chapters while my kids were doing soccer games or soccer practice. I was definitely the working mom on the phone, at the practice.
Oh, we've all been there. So, in what ways do you apply your education to your career right now?
You know what? I've been able to apply my education in so many unforeseeable ways. I am an education, childcare, and library services director. And so I use every course I've ever taken, whether it was psychology or English or public speaking. I've had to use all of those skills. And it's been the most amazing experience because I can now apply that. I am currently part of a class action lawsuit against our public schools for discrimination against Native American students. So I'm using my education to help others on my reservation and Native Americans everywhere. And, all of these other children, we have programs for them. I apply my knowledge in ways that I never could have foreseen, but it's been so incredible.
I love that, because I think sometimes we get so caught up in what an education is and a degree is, and what
Hmm.
goes along with that, that you think, like the question I just asked, in terms of job specifics, but an education can be applied to so many other areas of life, as you just
Yes,
mentioned. And but in terms of your job, what does like a typical day look like? Because this is a really interesting career path that I think
it
we've all
is.
kind of heard a little bit about it, but we don't necessarily know exactly what the role does. So can you kind of explain that so people understand what you
Sure.
do better and maybe appreciate it more?
Absolutely. I work for my tribal government. I am a member of the Bear River Band of the Ronaville Rancheria in Northern California. And as an education director, I started out at the very bottom. I worked in public schools as an aide or a one on one or a skia my whole life. And then when I turned 30, I made the jump to daycare worked my way up, became the education director. And now I am in charge of grants, CCDF funding for the Child Care Development Fund, library grants. We have 2 teen centers. We've got a lot going on right now. And again, all of my skills, all of the classes I've taken is a culmination of my entire job and who I am. And I apply all of it.
And those are such important things to have, such as those teen programs and libraries. I feel like a lot of kids today don't even know what a library is, and it's so
Yeah,
important for them to have access to these things. Sometimes
it
it is,
is.
a really important lifeline that they have that, if they didn't have those things provided, I'm not sure where a lot of people would end up.
My department also runs a higher education program.
Oh,
So we put adults into higher education, whether it's online or in person or vocational schools. And I've been able to enroll, I think, 6 other tribal members in Ashworth so far this year. And it's been incredible because I'm seeing people who have maybe worked in the casino industry their whole life stop and say, you know what? I want to work in childcare. I want to work in education. And I'm watching them change the course of their life. And it's so incredible. It's been so moving and powerful and empowering for our community.
oh, that's inspiring. I think that's such a beautiful thing because it's a great way to give back. Um, and I was going to say, you talked about close friends and family now enrolling, including in Ashworth, and
My
how
sister
that
goes
kind of
there.
changed the dynamic between you. You mentioned in terms of motivation and support, but even different types of conversations. Can you kind of explain that a little bit? How these dynamics have changed now that more people within your circle are being exposed to not just Ashworth in particular, but to education in general?
Yeah, I mean, we have developed a really tight-knit community with each other where we discuss different classes. Oh, have you taken biology? Yeah, I have. How did you do on this assignment? What was the teacher looking for? It's been super empowering for us because now we have this great group where we get together and we talk about things, whether it's online or in person. We discuss our goals, where we are with our GPAs. Sometimes we compete a little bit just to see who scored better.
I always say don't compare yourself to others, but sometimes that competition can be healthy for you because it can kind of help to give you that little push to do better.
Yeah, it's completely healthy competition, and we're all supporting each other and lifting each other up, and we all have the same goal. So it's been incredible in my community to watch mothers, who maybe have chosen or were only able to mother and felt that they had to stay home because they couldn't attend school, and now they're enrolling and they're going, and it's just amazing.
I That's such an important thing because I mean, I'm a mom and I've been very lucky and very privileged, but I do think no matter what walk of life you come from, I think moms in particular, in terms of society, we tend to be the caregivers, the primary, parent. Not always, but
Right.
very often that's true. And a lot of our students, we see that. And I can attest to the fact that as a mom, sometimes you kind of, I don't want to say you lose yourself because I think you kind of become a different version of yourself. But to have something like education and to just even have a group like what you're speaking of can really kind of revitalize you and kind of give you a new spin on things and a new view of
Hmm.
things that kind of, like you said, it's empowering a bit and it helps you, I think, kind of reassess and refocus and become a better parent, partner, worker, whatever it may be.
Absolutely. I mean, I definitely feel like I am a better person, a better parent, especially with all of my psychology classes too. Like, I really apply those constantly in the workplace and with my children and say, like, okay, how are they feeling? How might this make them feel? What's the root of this? Instead of just reacting, it's really great.
Yes, because it's very easy to just react. But if we take a moment and think, especially with kids, they're not just, they may seem irrational and unreasonable at times, but
Yes.
everything emanates from a certain place. And it's important to understand where those feelings come from because it's
Hmm.
important to them. It might seem small to us, but it's big to them.
Yeah, exactly.
So I want to go back just a little bit. You mentioned in your application a little bit earlier in the conversation that you kind of felt like an imposter in your job before you went to Ashworth. How did Ashworth impact that feeling? And can you just kind of describe it a little bit? Because I think that that's another thing that a lot of us are familiar with, maybe feeling like we're not good enough or we're not where we should be and wondering, what to do about that.
Yeah, in spite of the fact that I had worked my way up and I knew that I had earned my job as an education director, I still felt like I wasn't, I guess, worthy of it somehow because I didn't have the same amount of education that some of my peers have had or that other people in the office have. And it really impacted my self-esteem. And I just felt like, gosh, I'm so lucky to have been given this opportunity. And what am I doing with it? I'm going to squander it away. And it really made me feel so insecure that I was spiraling kind of with doubt and self-sabotage until I decided to take hold of it and do something about it. And again, Ashworth gave me the space to do that, and it's been incredible.
Did you have a particular moment where you kind of like, hit that point where you said, okay, like time to push ahead and make this change? Or was it kind of like a gradual progression where more and more it became a realization?
It definitely was that moment where I was in my sister's garage just going, gosh, what am I doing? I need to buckle down and take this seriously. And my insecurities are mine, and they were coming from within me because I felt that I needed the education. And it turns out that I did need the education. And it's, again, just been the most amazing and incredible experience.
You also mentioned you received a raise since completing your degree, and you feel like now you have job security, which is invaluable. It's something that not everybody in today's day and age has. Could you again elaborate a little bit on that and how Ashworth helped you feel like your job is more secure and by your job also your future?
I got a 10% increase just right off the bat. Yeah, that's incredible, right?
Yeah.
And
Good for you. Yes.
but also, we're working with a lot of grants. We have about 13 grants in my department. And as someone who had never worked with grants previously, I wasn't quite sure how to interpret them. But given all the skills that I've earned at Ashworth and all the things that I've learned, I can now interpret grants, and I am now teaching other tribes how to implement their ARPA funds, their grant funds. And I get to do this all the time. I get to be on camera and talk with people in Nebraska and Oklahoma and tell them, like, this is how you spend your money. This is what you want to do to federally obligate your funds. And it's been incredible. And Ashworth helped me do that.
That's really cool. Please stop me if this is going too far, but I'm personally curious, and I think it would be interesting to a lot of people. Obviously, your background is really important to you, and it's a huge part of your identity.
Yes.
You mentioned a lot in your application, and even now, and obviously with the work you do. And so, kind of, I'd like to know a little bit more about that connection in terms of, like you just said, you're helping other tribes learn how to access money to improve their lives and education systems. What does that mean to you in a personal sense?
In a personal sense, I hope for these folks that they get the same type of security that I feel, because now they can obligate their funds the way they need to, and we can get them the childcare that they need, which is one of the biggest portions of my job, is making sure that mothers in disadvantaged situations for Native American children have the childcare that they need, that is safe and paid for, and that they can go to school if they want, or they can earn money for themselves if they would like to. And helping out, with the ACLU and identifying like systems and areas of need in our community. It's been invaluable. We've helped so many people. And, going back to the job security, I do feel very secure. I mean, I felt before like I hadn't earned my job, and now I know that I have earned it and I'm capable of implementing it with a certain matter of expertise. And it's just incredible because I never would have seen myself here. I was not the greatest student in high school. I never thought that classrooms were for me. When I was a kid, I dreamed of being a teacher, but I never really thought I wanted to go back to a classroom. And now I'm an education director. I didn't see it happening, but I love it. I love education. I just needed to do it in a different way. And I understand that as an education director, that not everybody has the same drive for learning or the same discipline. It doesn't work for everybody, but I've identified who it does work for and we're helping them, and it's incredible.
That's really, really cool. I was actually going to say, it's a lot of kids struggle in school for
Mm-hmm.
whatever reason. Sometimes whatever education system they're in, it doesn't work for their style of learning. But I think it's so beautiful that you're somebody who came from a similar situation where you didn't feel like education was necessarily for you, but now not only are you working in the field, but you're helping those who maybe felt the same way or feel the same way as you once felt, and that makes a huge impact.
It really does. It's been so big for me in my job, for me personally, for my self esteem. And I hope that it's been big for them too. I'm seeing people who are in their 50s make life changes and career changes and do the things that they always dreamed of. And I think it's beautiful.
That's great. And speaking of that, you also talked about gaining confidence,
Mhm.
and you just mentioned about self-esteem. So it's not something that people necessarily, I think about when they're going back to school. Obviously, they're thinking about getting information, getting knowledge, getting a degree, a certificate, whatever else goes along with it. But very often the surprise product that comes from it, or kind of like a bonus, is the fact that they gain a lot of self-confidence. And you seem to be somebody who has benefited from that as well. So what does that confidence boost mean to you? And how
For
did
me,
Ashworth help to give you that?
for me, I feel like I'm someone that my children can be proud of. And when I'm on their campus, knowing that my children are proud of me, that gives me confidence. And knowing that the administrators on their campus, they respect me and they're also here for me on my journey and I'm with them because we understand each other. It's been beautiful for my self esteem because I feel like I was always a little on the insecure side, always felt like maybe I wasn't enough. But again, that was internal and I just needed to have that aha moment so that I could make a change for myself.
I love that you said that, not that obviously your insecurity was internal and that it was you, but I think that's an important message to convey, that other people can make you feel good about things, but your confidence really has to come, just as your insecurities come from
Yes.
within, your confidence has to come from within as
Yes.
well. Like, you have to, it doesn't matter how anybody else feels about you. If you don't feel that same way, it doesn't resonate in the same manner. And even if somebody doesn't have confidence in you, if you have confidence in yourself, you can prove them wrong.
Exactly.
So, you said your family, saw what you went through to complete your degree, and I know, as you just mentioned about your kids and having confidence because of how they feel about you, and I know they must be proud of you. But on top of that, a lot of, you mentioned family members enrolling in Ashworth too. So what kind of advice did you give them? Were any of them kind of on the fence and not really sure if they wanted to do it or if it was for them? And how did you kind of persuade them? Or if you were talking to somebody right now who said, I want to make a change, but I don't know what to do and I don't know if this is for me, what would you tell them?
Well, I know that when it was my sister and my sister was trying to advance in her career pathway, we said, okay, what do you need to do for that? And we laid it out. Okay, you need the education so that you can even get the job interview. And we hooked her up with Ashworth and we looked up your guys' programs. And then we said, okay, does this look reasonable? Because if you keep clicking on the tabs, eventually you'll find that it'll show you every class you need to take, with the exceptions of whatever electives you choose. So we did that for her. And thankfully, in my line of work, we help pay for our tribal members to attend. So we identified the need, we found the finances, which is not a lot. It's I've done my research. We send people to college all over America, and this is probably the most affordable option that I've ever seen. Nowhere else could I have gotten 2 degrees for what I've paid. And we identified that with my sister, with other tribal members. It was pretty easy. All of your courses are laid out online. We just went through it, picked out what they wanted to do, looked at the courses, decided if it was achievable, and enrolled. It was so easy.
So glad it was an easy process. And it's true too about the affordability, because school just seems to be getting more and more expensive at various places. And education doesn't have to bankrupt you. It
It
doesn't
shouldn't.
have to take out a second mortgage. Everybody should be able to learn, and we try to make that accessible to people as much as possible. So I just want to thank you for taking time to speak with us. Is there anything else maybe you'd like people to know, or anything else you want to add in?
I think that if anyone's on the fence about choosing Ashworth, they should just choose Ashworth because they will never be sorry.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time, and congratulations on being a finalist. We're really proud of you here, and I'm sure you have a whole community behind you who is also extremely proud of you.
Thank you so much for your consideration. It's been amazing. Like, who would have ever thought I'd get here to be a finalist for Student of the Year? Not me. I wouldn't have guessed.
Well, it's real, believe it.
That's amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.